I just bought two Apple MacBook Pros for $20 Australian, which works out to be roughly $13 US. Do they work? And did I get my money's worth? Well, let's take a look. Facebook Marketplace often comes up with some bargains as people just want old laptops gone. They are both different models, most likely between 2006 and early 2008. One of them appears to even have a working battery, and surely it must be a replacement. And back when these came out, they were not cheap, costing around $4,000 Australian depending on the specs. As far as condition goes, they aren't bad at all, one having minor wear to the palm rest. I should be able to clean up the grubby keyboard with some eucalyptus oil. The seller said that they both worked last time he used them, but he has lost the charger. When plugged in, the first unit chimes and shows signs of life. After a minute or so, I was greeted with what looks to be a macOS Leopard login screen, owned by a person called Damien. I tried a few obvious password entries but had no luck. A fresh install of macOS will be required. This is also one with a seemingly good battery, an A1150, one of the original models from 2006. And no wonder the battery still holds a charge, it's clearly a replacement. Removing the battery, we can confirm that this is one of the higher spec original Core Duo models. Now onto the other Mac. Does it work at all? Surprisingly, it seems to also be functional, also being owned by the same guy. This battery doesn't seem to hold much of a charge and is likely original. I'm really curious to see if the RAM has been upgraded at some point. This is the 2.16 GHz late 2006, maybe 2007 model, which came with 1 GB of RAM. Inside, I can see that it has been upgraded to 3 GB. Taking a look at the older 2006 MacBook Pro, it has the original 1 GB stick of memory. Since these are from 2006 and 7, they are pretty outdated. But something that isn't outdated is Opera, the fast and secure browser with integrated AI tools. Opera is super fast and easy to download, with advanced features such as a free built-in VPN and ad blocker, all enabled with a few simple clicks of your mouse. Having Spotify accessible right from the sidebar is super convenient, as I love listening to music as I work. There's also integration with all the most popular music streaming apps. This seamless integration extends to your favorite messaging apps like Facebook and WhatsApp. The advantages of using Opera don't stop there. The generative AI service ARIA is built right in. It's easily accessible in the sidebar. You can also save your battery life and choose when this setting is active. It'll reduce background activity, pausing unneeded plugins and animations. Switching from another browser? Well, you're in luck. Transferring your bookmarks and passwords is quick and easy. And Opera is available on Mac, Windows, Linux, iOS, and even on Chromebooks. A fairly new feature are tab islands, allowing you to group and easily organize open tabs together, freeing up space and making browsing effortless. So what are you waiting for? Enhance your browsing experience today with Opera. Links are in the description and in the comments below. Before we test these Macs with a new version of macOS, let's max out the RAM. I've got a few sticks that I saved from other machines I scrapped. First, I tried putting 4 GB into the 2006 MacBook Pro. It didn't seem to like this, and it wouldn't even start up now. Perhaps the sticks just need reseating. Memory can be quite particular about the seating. Still not booting with the extra memory. It turns out that the 2006 Core Duo MacBook Pros simply will not boot with more than 2 GB of RAM. In fact, there are a number of disadvantages to the older Mac: a slower CPU, lower RAM capacity, and an older supported version of macOS. The only upside that the older MacBook has is that it has twice as much video memory. For this video, I'll restore and clean up the newer one, but before I store the older one away, I'll try to max out the RAM and install a fresh operating system. And finally, I found a pair of RAM sticks that it will boot with. I forgot that the original 2006 model was limited to macOS 10.6 Snow Leopard, so I'll have to use the old installer DVD, as I can't seem to find my 10.6 installer USB anywhere. With the internal drive wiped off and a new OS installed, I'm greeted with the first time boot video. That really brings back some memories. I'm pretty sure Snow Leopard was the last version of macOS to have such a video. The original 2006 MacBook Pro seems functional. Perhaps I could make a video about it one day, or maybe I already have in the past and I've just forgotten. The newer MacBook Pro even has Windows installed. There is something honestly cursed about Windows on old Macs. Don't ask me why. Anyway, as a test I installed a new OS before we take it apart and install a new solid state drive, as well as redo the thermal paste. And it appears as if the original battery is charging, but I'll switch it out for the aftermarket one in the other MacBook. Before I take it apart, this MacBook could do with a good wipe down. Clearly it was pretty well used, especially the Ethernet port it seems. Maybe they were regularly missing the Firewire port right next to it. A little bit of eucalyptus oil makes the keys look a lot less grubby. The display panel is also pretty dirty, but that's nothing some lens cleaner and a microfiber cloth can't fix. While the palm rest looks dirty, it's actually just worn. They might have been wearing a watch which can damage the surface. With lots of sharp edges, gunk is sure to build up. This is most likely dead skin. Ew. For a device that's bordering on 17 years of age, it's clearly taken care of, but used quite a bit. So we'll be putting in an SSD, cleaning it out, and also maxing the RAM to 4 GB. The first step to the disassembly is the removal of the battery. The RAM cover also needs to come off. It's pretty awesome that the RAM is easily accessible with these MacBooks. Inside the battery compartment you'll find 2 little Phillips head screws. These laptops have many different screw types and lengths. Be sure to keep track of them, and I'll link to an Ifixit tutorial in the description. Getting into one of these MacBooks is kind of a lengthy process, with screws on nearly every side. This design is pretty much a carryover from the older G4 PowerBooks. In 2008, Apple updated the MacBook Pros with the unibody design that you're most probably familiar with. The worst part about taking one of these apart are the plastic clips at the front. They're designed to pop out as you lift the keyboard assembly, but they don't seem to want to budge. I really don't want to snap them. Eventually, I did get both halves separated with a bit of force, and before you yank off the keyboard, be sure to disconnect it from the logic board. Since we want to remove the main board, a lot needs to be done, starting off with the removal of the optical drive held in place by 4 screws. Apple would go on to refine the internal layout in future laptops. This here really looks like a prototype, given all the wires and the sheer amount of connectors. I'm hoping whatever SSD we put in here does work, since this MacBook uses the old SATA 1 1.5 gigabit interface. With any luck, what I put in here will be compatible, and be careful at this point as the laptop will have some trouble balancing. It's also time to dislodge the many connectors on the logic board. Be sure to follow a tutorial, as it would be easy to miss some of the screws necessary for the board's removal. Some screws are also different lengths and different thread types, and I drew out a diagram to keep track of their location. When taking out the fans, be gentle when pulling up the cables stuck to the top of them. The tape that channels the airflow through the vents can also be ripped up easily, as I found out here. The last thing to look out for when taking the main board out is the small power connector on the underside. Slightly lift the board and gently pull the connector out. Lifting from the left side, the board is now free, but you have to lift it up pretty high to clear the right speaker module. Some crusty thermal paste, a bit of dust, and some old spider nests. Very nice. Some new thermal compound will definitely help with heat dissipation. I began by cleaning off the copper surfaces with a Q-tip and some isopropyl alcohol, followed by a much needed dust out. An old toothbrush worked very well at removing built up debris. Oh, and I actually just realized you can simply lift up the cooling assembly. Why on earth it didn't just come out with the logic board, I'll never know. Because now when I have to put the paste back on, it'll be a bit of a guessing game as to whether it's done properly. It's not surprising that these machines run hot. Just look at how weak the fans look. They didn't look too bad at all, but I brushed them off outside to remove any dust. And look how many wires are just going everywhere under the keyboard area. I'm pretty sure the Bluetooth module is also on there. While we've got the case stripped down, it's a good time to apply some new thread locker and tighten the hinge screws. Luckily, this Mac doesn't have any damage to the hinge. It's apparently pretty common for cracks to form. And in goes the freshly cleaned off cooling system. Before applying new thermal paste, I made sure to test exactly how I was going to put the board back in, as there is a little bit of guesswork when it comes to seating the dies against the copper surfaces. Before letting them make contact, I plugged the power connector back into the underside of the board, and now it can be put back together. Double check that you haven't forgotten any connectors or jammed them underneath. It would be a real pain to have to open it up and do this again. The old hard disk has this connector taped on. It will obviously need to be put on the new drive, and after one last inspection I was confident that it was all back together properly. These Macs are definitely not that fun to take apart, and I'm glad Apple's 2008 redesign made disassembly a whole lot easier. For now I'll keep the RAM in that I know works. One less potential thing to go wrong would be nice, and it does still thankfully turn on. Oh, but in the disk utility it doesn't detect the SSD I installed, and you can always check using the terminal whether the drive is being detected. Sadly, it wasn't. I really shouldn't have gone to the effort of screwing the keyboard assembly down before knowing if the SSD would even work. So a Kingston A400 wasn't compatible. How about a Crucial BX500? I didn't fully assemble it this time until I knew it actually worked. With my fingers crossed, it actually detects the drive this time. Some SSDs are apparently backwards compatible. It's good to know that the cheap BX500s will work with these old Macs. It installed without any problems, and it also started up pretty fast. Time for some new RAM. These sticks seem to have the same memory chips. They look like a good pair, and they do indeed match, bringing the system to the maximum of 4 GB. The amount of compatible software for macOS line is ever dwindling. Thankfully, old school RuneScape still works completely fine. It's always fun going back to Lumbridge to slay some goblins. SuperTux Cart is also fine on here. The 128 MB of discrete video memory is okay for light gaming. Playing around in Photoshop is also fine. The Core 2 Duo CPU still gets the job done. And if you want to run a modern web browser that actually loads pages, you'll probably have to resort to Linux. Although the 32-bit EFI in this MacBook will limit your choices of compatible Linux distributions quite a bit. If you want to type documents, as is the case with a lot of older Apple laptops, the keyboard is excellent. It even has a backlight that can be activated automatically when it's dark. Sadly, these lovely looking Macs are pretty outdated and really held back by hardware limitations, especially the original 2006 models which had 32-bit processors. If you really want to use one of these, a Linux distribution is going to be your best bet, as macOS 10.7 is not very usable these days. Either way, I've had a lot of fun messing around with these old school Macs that are almost 18 years old. Man, does time fly by fast. While these MacBook Pros look pretty cool and cosmetically have aged pretty gracefully compared to other laptops from 2006 and 7, functionally there is quite a lot less you can do with them. Either way, for $20 I can't really complain. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.